Hey everyone, welcome to our July Business Applications NYC event of the year. We're joined by members of the NYC Business Applications User Group and NYC Power Platform User Group. I want to thank our very own Mihir Shah from IBM for agreeing to deliver a session on enterprise feedback management using Microsoft Customer Voice, formerly known as Forms Pro. I also want to thank the rest of the event organizing committee, Aaron Fishman, Arun Vinoth, and myself, Eric Levin. Since Mihir mentioned that this can be more interactive, so I'm not going to tell you to mute yourself and remove your background noise. But you can ask your questions in the chat, raising your hand, and so on. So let's give a warm welcome to Mihir. Mihir is a global COC leader of Microsoft Managed Services at IBM. He's been working on Microsoft Dynamics and Power Platform products for a very long time. His industry's expertise includes government, retail and distribution, manufacturing, travel, and healthcare. I might miss a few here. And he's a valuable member of our community. He's also a speaker, a volunteer, a mentor, and events organizer. So let's give Mihir a warm welcome. And Mihir, you're free to start presenting at any time. And thanks again for stepping up and doing this presentation for us.
Okay, thanks, Eric. I'll share my screen here. Let me know if you can see my presentation.
Yep, it just came on.
Okay. All right. Thank you, everyone. And let's start with the agenda. So today's topic is enterprise feedback management with customer voice. I'm going to go over this presentation in the beginning, and then it will be more interactive as we go in the demo of the customer voice application. What I have on the right is a QR code for a survey, sample survey. If you can, with your phone, just click on the QR code, take a photo, and use your camera and try to enter some survey. And then as more people enter it, you can enter it multiple times. And as more people enter it, we can see the reporting on it and how it works. I can show it to you. Okay, so I'll be talking about customer voice, creating a customer voice survey, distributing the survey and reporting on it, integration with Power BI, and send from Dynamics 365, which is a new functionality which was recently added on customer voice. So why do we do customer voice? Why it is important? So you want to be able to, while you are using Dynamics 365, we also have the functionality to capture, analyze, and act upon customer and employees' feedback. So the customer voice application is basically a feedback management application, and allows you to capture feedback from your customers, from vendors, for employees. It can be used for any of those purposes. You can design and create your surveys, and it's very easy to design surveys. You don't need to have any other different application, because it links to your contact data within Dynamics 365 or Dataverse. And you can also import outside customer data in it. And there are some automation in there. You can use Power Automate to send the survey, or you can have sending of the survey based on a certain event, or you can even send it through Outlook. Also, you can have multiple surveys generated, and you can link your data or responses and from multiple surveys and get insights using Power BI. You can set the alerts, track the KPIs, and the KPIs are built upon the survey, and within the survey itself, the KPIs are measured. So it's very easy to manage that. And the new functionality that I talk about is sending the survey right from Dynamics 365 without having to go into customer voice application. Okay, so licensing, I want to get this first clear. It is based on the response volume. So how many responses are you expecting in a month, right? Are you expecting 100 responses, 1,000 responses, 2,000 responses? It's included with your Dynamics 365 app. So if you already have an enterprise license, this is included with it. First, 2,000 responses are included every month. But if you want to have additional responses, if you're expecting more than 2,000 responses in a month, you want to buy more capacity, which is probably $100 for 1,000 responses per tenant. So again, it's per tenant, not individual environment or licenses. It's based on the tenant. Okay, so that's about the licensing. This is a data flow in customer voice. So how the data flows, customer voice is a separate application. It's an Azure service. So it's a service that provided by Microsoft on Azure, and it links to Dataverse. So that common data service, it's basically Dataverse. And so you would have your projects which are created in customer voice, and it gets copied over into Dataverse. So you can see those projects, but it's only a one-way copy. So if you create a project in Dataverse, it won't go into customer voice. So be very careful. Everything you want to do on customer voice should be done in customer voice app. You should not make any changes to that in Dataverse. You can run reports on it. You can do other triggering of events triggering you can use in Dataverse, but everything from an application point of view, you should use customer voice for that. For distribution of survey, it is using survey invitation distribution. It does use the Dynamics 365 marketing email service. So that's what is being used on the backend by Azure to send out your surveys. And the response, once the survey responses come in, that data is being analyzed by Azure Cognitive Services. So there is the AI part of it which gets done on it. So it does sentiment analysis, or it does any other kind of analytics that you want to do, and it does give you analyze the results and give you a report on customer voice itself. And you can also configure it to show certain results in Dataverse. Okay, so that was your data flow. So now talking about planning, I would start. So I'm going to just walk through the different steps of, if I was doing customer voice surveys or enterprise feedback management, what are the things I should be thinking about? So what are your goals of your survey? Like what you want to measure? Do you want to measure customer satisfaction, CSAT scores? And are you going to measure the any other based on performance of your employees or your call center agents, or is it on a case performance? So what kind of application you are trying to measure here? And what is a lead? Are you using it for lead generation? So when you have a lead and then you're sending surveys, if you go to trade shows and you have a bulk of contact information, lead information, you're sending them surveys about or giving them some information. Or you're tracking employee performance. So, different goals you can have, you can measure that. Also, the regulation, you should also keep in mind that if you're doing surveys in different parts of the world, there is a GDPR compliance. So, for GDPR compliance, the data is stored in USA or Europe. So there are only two places where the survey data is stored. For Europe, it is stored in Europe data centers, and for the rest of the world, it is stored in USA. So just to be very careful of where your survey could be customer data, right? So customer data would be either stored in US for the major part, but if your tenant is in Europe, it will be stored in Europe data centers. And also you need to be careful about the HIPAA and personal information compliance when designing a survey. You should always have the way they can ask for removing their contact information from your organization. Also, environment planning. So how many environments you want to have where you will have surveys? Are you going to do all the surveys obviously in the production environment, but you also know you want to test your surveys, you want to do a checking QA test on it, have a development environment. So you need to know how many environments the survey needs to connect to. Okay, then ownership of records. So the survey records are, basically they are just like any record. You need to think about how it's going to be owned and who is going to manage the records. And that ownership is important, especially if you have a large team who is working on surveys. So, you want to make sure that if a person who has started the survey becomes the owner of the survey, and has left the organization. Now nobody knows where those, who owns those survey records. And the security role privileges are required. So there are some custom security roles that needs to be assigned for being able to do the surveys. Transaction volume planning, we talked about this during the licensing, and the response limits are based on 2,000 responses, or by limits that are based by Microsoft is based on the responses. And how are you going to distribute the survey? So are you going to use Power Automate? Do you have the licenses for that? Are you going to use email? And then are you going to use a third-party service? Another way of distribution of surveys, you embedding this on your website, or you providing a link in an email, or providing a QR code like what I have on the top right-hand corner right here. Okay, let's talk about survey limits. So there are certain limits on the surveys. So a user can create up to 400 surveys, and each survey can have up to 200 questions. So there are some certain limits that we need to know. Number of responses per survey is limited to 50,000 responses. So if you are expecting more than 50,000, you might want to talk to Microsoft to see if we can increase that limit. And number of invites per email is 10,000. So that's the max invitations that you can send on for a survey. And then you create a project. Project is like a container for the survey. So maximum they would recommend is don't have more than 10 surveys per project. If you want to have more, have another project created. Okay, so let's talk about how to enable customer voice. So normally this customer voice app would be included in your environment of Dataverse if you're using Dynamics 365 enterprise licenses, and it's also enabled by default. And then once you have that app enabled, you have to assign the right license, security roles for that person who is going to be working on the survey. You'd start by creating a project, and I'll walk you through this. I'm not going to talk much. I'll just rush through this part of it. But there are different templates that Microsoft has provided for creating projects. And then within that project, you would have different, like there are certain things that a project consists of, like the surveys, the satisfaction matrix, the email templates, and then certain Power Automate flows and reports. So project is a container which has all those 5 items right there. So if you copy a project, most of these things, except the data, response data, for example, will not get copied, but other things will get copied over. And a project is linked to a Dataverse environment. So it's important to understand that every project that you create in Customer Voice has to be linked to a Dataverse environment. Okay, so we talked about selecting the environment. Because every project is linked to a Dataverse environment, you would create a project for dev, for QA, and for prod. So that way each project, the dev project will be linked to the dev environment, QA project to QA environment, and the production project will be linked to the production environment. You'll have to enable users, survey users in the environment. So you have to assign the licenses if they have and security roles. So Dynamics 365 licenses and security roles are required. And then share the project with the users. So if you want to have Azure AD group, security group, that becomes the project owner, then you'll have to share the project the member of the team or the group. That way the group becomes the owner of the survey. Otherwise, you have to individually share it with other users, and you'll have to then give them access to the project individually. Okay, we talked about the ownership. So if it's a user-owned project, if the first thing you would do is create a project. So if it's a user-owned project, everything within the project is the creator who owns the project. But if the project is owned by a team, then everything within that is owned by the team. That way, multiple people in the team can work on the survey without having the project creator required to share each and every part of this project with other users. So that's one way of making sure that the team ownership is better. That way, even if the project owner or creator leaves the organization, the team still owns the data in there. Okay, so we'll talk about I'll show you this part, which is creation of the surveys, designing of the survey questions. There are multiple options to each question, and then each question you can choose to have a link to the satisfaction matrix. So based on the questions that you are choosing, if you choose a Net Promoter Score question, then it will link to the satisfaction matrix that's for Net Promoter Score. So accordingly, you have to be very selective on what kind of questions that you want to have. For example, the file upload, it's only for a survey sent to the employees of your organization. It will not be enabled for outside the organization. Okay, so there are 15 variables max in each survey you can have. So a variable is where you would want to add certain, saying, okay, this question is, we want to add the company name or some other variable in there. Up to 15 variable you can have, and then 10 satisfaction metrics. So the KPIs that we talked about in the beginning, there are 4 out-of-the-box KPIs: the Net Promoter Score, CSAT, sentiment, and any custom score that you want to calculate. But you can have up to 10 of this linked to the survey questions. You can have multilingual survey. I think there are 23 languages max right now. Again, the survey questions needs to be considered based on the language that you want to enter it in. There's some branding and formatting available for each of the survey that you can customize as per your requirements. All right, so I'll start with the first demo, which is the creation of the project and survey. So if you have, you can start using the QR code, and I'll go straight to the survey and we'll look at the results now. So I'm at the home in my customer voice application. So you go to customervoice.microsoft.com, and that's where you will see this page. And once you are on this page and you have the right security role assigned to yourself, you would be able to start creating a project. So I can go here and look at this. I have a dashboard. I see my support NPS score. I see the customer sentiment score, and this is for all the surveys within my projects that I have. So everything within that, I see the customer sentiment and then service visit, all of that. But if I click here, I can create a new project. And then there are the project templates available. I can have a periodic customer feedback or a service visit. So if I want to do a periodic customer feedback or a support survey itself. So if I click on support and then click next. So that's when it's going to ask me for a location. So I can say, okay, I want to connect it to one of my environment, or I can see all my environments and connect it to any other environment I want to, and then create the project from here. So I will not create one. I already created multiple projects. So let me just cancel from now. We'll go to the projects right here. And then you'll see what are the different projects that I have here. 1 second. Okay, so I have multiple projects. I can see that, okay, I have what was the date created, how many surveys, how many responses I got. And then I see, okay, let's look at one of the surveys right here. So I look at the support here. So this is a support project, and I can see how many surveys. There are 2 surveys within this support project that are there. And then on each survey, I have a tab. So for example, the one that I had sent to you on that QR code, where was this survey, which I created for the New York City BizApps event survey. And then I can click on the design, and I can go ahead and start designing this. If I want to change the title, I can change the title. I can add a subtitle in here. I can then start adding questions. If I click on add new, I get all the possible questions that I want to add right here. And then I can set sections also within this. What I've done is I have the simple questions, first name, last name, and then what app do you want to learn? So this could be a multiple choice question, or you can also have an other box in here. And then how would you rate your experience in this event? And then, I have this, how likely are you to recommend? So this is the NPS, Net Promoter Score. And then what I have here is a logic. So if I click on this, and then I can see that, okay, I have some logic. If I want to add, I can say, okay, what is the logic here, display logic or skip logic from here. And then this is a logic applied, which basically says that if my Net Promoter Score is less than 5 or 4, and then it will ask this question. If your Net Promoter Score is more than 5, that person is already happy with your performance or your organization, then you don't need to ask this 6th question. So that way you can control the logic as needed for your survey questions. And then you can add the survey with a post survey message. So that is the questions and how they look here. What you also have on this survey is the customization part of it, where you can add the satisfaction metric. So this, if if you look at the satisfaction metrics, you have in this survey, I have net promoter score, CSAT, and customer sentiment I can add. So if I have a question which says what did you, or a general, what is the primary reason for this, I can add a customer sentiment satisfaction metrics to this particular question itself. So then I can select this, because this is a question which has a some kind of a analysis can be done on the answer here. So I can say, okay, I want to do an analysis, and then let me know what the customer sentiment was for this answer. So based on your satisfaction metrics, it only allows you to select the specific question in your survey, and you need to have the right question for the satisfaction metrics to be created. So for example, this one there's only one question in here, which is how likely are you to recommend? That's the NPS type of question. And that's why the net promoter score satisfaction metrics is based on this question alone. So I hope that's clear. If you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, I'll go further in this. So this is where you would add any advanced logic. So what we saw was a simple logic, but I can also add some advanced logic to the questions in here. So for example, if the answer is this, do this, or if the answer is this, skip the next question and go to the, go and show them this part of the question. So those kind of logics you can, and then again, simple, they are very simple to do, and you can add them. I can add some personalization in here. That's where I would create the variables. So if I want to add, as I added first name, last name is by default. And then if I want to add like company name or any of this, I can add multiple variables. Up to 15 variables can be added to a survey. I can do languages, branding, formatting, any of that. So if I want to brand it, I want to set a theme color, I have to put the hexadecimal number of my logo, company's logo or color. I can choose that. I can choose the font, and I can choose the background that I want to add. I can upload a background image for it. Okay. So this is the case resolution survey. This is again out of the box, and here you can see you can have this type of questions also, where you have a multiple. Each question has multiple answers right in here, and you can create a easy to use solution for your survey for questions. Okay, so that's creating the project and designing the survey. Let me go back to my presentation, and then let's talk about distribution of the survey. So distribution of survey, we talked about this a little bit. Max 10,000 recipient by email. Power Automate, you can send using Power Automate, but remember that could be a throttling, in the sense number of Power Automate that you can run could be 8 per minute. That was what I understood. Again, if it is not that important, you only if once a case is closed, then do a survey, then this number may not be important for you. You can embed it in a web page. So if it's in a portal or any web page, anywhere you want to embed the survey, you can embed the survey. You can also have a survey link that can go as a text message or any of that. You can send using Power Automate. You can send a link as a text message. So users will get the text message and they can reply back by clicking on the link. They will get the survey. Or you can put the QR code, which I had put up there for everyone to enter the details. So the new one is sending it manually from Dynamics 365. So we'll go through that. So send by email, customize the send from email. So from this, you can have from multiple emails. You can choose which email you want to send it from. Insert link for survey or unsubscribe. So this is important. Every survey should have an unsubscribe link in there. You can use multiple email templates, multiple languages, and you can embed the survey in the email itself. So this is for the Power Automate, automatically sending the survey. That could be based on when an action is done in Dynamics 365, like a case is resolved or a work order is completed. It limits to 8 survey invitations per minute, and you can use variables for personalization. So you can use your variables that you created in the survey, you can personalize them as required. Okay, so survey distribution options, we can go over this when I'm doing the demo. You can have the distribution options in here. I'll walk you through that. Okay, before we go to the reporting, let's quickly jump to the survey. So now if you click on the send, so if you have a survey and you want to look at the send options, or the distribution options, this is where you would go and distribute your surveys. So here I can go here, I can choose, okay, I want to automate this. That is basically Power Automate. I can email it and embed it within a website, use a QR code, or create a link for the survey. If I select the email part of it, right now by default, because I am logged in, it takes my email as address as a default from email address. But if I logged in as a application user or a generic user, I would recommend that the from part should be from a general user. You can use that too. And then from a recipient point of view, if I enter a name in here and the name is a contact within the environment of Dataverse, then it will come up right here. And I can choose that to add one or many participants. I can also click on import contacts, and then I can upload a file, and that file is in a CSV format, and it will allow me to add up to 10,000 contacts. And there are some guidelines on how to upload those contacts to this list. Obviously, you want to make sure if you are uploading 10,000 contacts, whatever email you are sending it to from needs to be whitelisted, and you have to be careful with that. You can change the survey, and then the link to the survey will be right in here. So whichever survey you're sending it, for example, this is a New York City BizApps event survey, the link to the survey comes right from here. And I can then do further customization on this side. So I can have some personalization settings that was for the, and then the distribution settings. In the distribution setting, I can say, okay, set options for individual participants. If it is a survey that is being said within an organization, you want to check this. Only people on my organization can respond. So you don't want the survey to be responded by people from outside your organization. Now, are you going to accept anonymous responses? So if you're going to put it on a website, or it's a QR code, or it's a link, the link could be sent to multiple thousands of people can get the link, or it can be on a website, everybody can see it. So are you okay with anonymous responses, or are you want responses where we need to have a contact in the system? We want to limit to one response per person, and then whoever is invited participants, do you want to create a contact in this Dataverse environment? And then you can also choose to save Dataverse survey progress, and that data will be stored up to 28 days. These are the options for responses. So, do you accept yes responses? Yes. So you can set when you want to accept responses. Do you want the survey to be available from this date to that date? There are so many ways that you can have your survey, which survey will only be enabled after this date, or it will stop after the event. For example, it's a survey for a particular event, and that event is completed. Now you don't want this survey to be enabled anymore. So you can choose to end the survey at a particular date. You don't get unnecessary responses. And then there's a response limit. By default, I think it's 50,000 is the limit that they have. Availability, again, disable survey links when the survey will be live. You can choose that. You can have the survey on the website and disable it only when you enable it again, then the link will be live. Otherwise, the link will not work. So that option is available right within the survey. And you can set an email distribution channel. So when I send the email, by default, it will take this email address. But if you have a whitelisted email address within your organization, you can, using Azure, there is a document from Microsoft on how to enable that. And you can change that and have your own domain name email in there instead of the standard Microsoft domain name. And you can also get notified if you want to get notified for any surveys that are completed. You can say, okay, send confirmation emails to respondents, or receive an email when a survey is submitted. So you can choose all of that right from here. So those were the distribution settings of the survey. Any questions on this? So let me just show you the QR code. So if I want to generate the QR code for this, I click on this, and this is the QR code. So I can take a snapshot and paste it somewhere on my website, or send it to someone to just scan the QR code and enter the details on this. I can also generate a link from here for the survey, and that link I can copy and put it on a website. Or I can have a code, which is the code which can be inline, pop-up button, or a pop-up window, or a button. Okay, so these are the different ways you can do the send survey options. So let me quickly go back and talk about a little bit on the reporting side. So reports, there are basically alerts and metrics. Alert basically gives you information, or you can set an alert when you have a survey where the trend is going negative, and those kind of alerts you can have. You can also have satisfaction metrics that we talked about. So let me just click on this. Let's go back to the reporting section of this. If I click on this side, these are all my reports. I don't have an alert created, but you can create a new alert rule, and then that alert rule will be based on a satisfaction metric, which is, for example, net promoter score is less than, and then I can say detractors. So it is, if my net promoter score is going into a detractor territory, which is less than 4 or 5, then I want to get an alert. So you can set different alert rules for each of the survey. That way you get an alert every time that it reaches that that rule is triggered. And then you can have your survey satisfaction metrics. So as the responses come in, the metrics get created and generated in here. So you can choose, based on what survey questions and what satisfaction metrics you have created. Based on that, you will get this report. And this is automatically, it is generating. You don't have to do anything. The entire report is generated by customer voice. Its analysis is done, and you get this out of the box. You get reporting. You can also get reporting from Power BI. So if you link this data in Dataverse with Power BI, you can generate reports from here. So I have a slide for that. I'll show you some of the information that you can generate from this. So this is satisfaction metrics for the entire. If I click on each of the individual survey, I can get individual report responses. I can look at all the responses and see, okay, what was my response, how many people were very dissatisfied, satisfied, very satisfied. So I get all these responses right from here. So let's look at the BizApps. I got 18 responses. Very good. So I have all these latest responses from Pete, Sammy, Philip, and okay. So I see that everybody is learning customer service and omni-channel. I guess that's more in demand. And then project operations. That's what they want. Everybody wants to learn. And then I can see a chart of the same here. And then the event, I get a good high 4.3 rating, which is good. And how likely are you to recommend? Most of them are promoters. I do have some detractors too. 4 of the survey responses are detractors. So now if I had an alert rule, if I get more detractors, it would have triggered it just in case for your score. And different answers are here. 3 responses are here for primary reason, all that. Right. I can also choose last 90 days, and I can see all of this. I can look at this, all my respondents. I see many of them are anonymous because I have enabled anonymous responses, and the QR code, obviously, anybody can respond. So you don't need to be a contact in the system to respond to QR codes. I can even export all this data from here. All right, so that's the reporting on customer voice. Any questions on reporting, or we're good? Okay, that's good. So managing customer voice. So now you have the customer voice application. Let's talk about a little bit of the managing side of it. Okay, so if I have dev, QA, and UAT and prod environment, what you want to do is you want to make sure that you copy your project first. So you copy the project from one environment to another. So you would do all the development in your dev environment in one project. You would do the surveys. You would enter the satisfaction metrics, the questions, the metrics. You would have any Power Automate flows within there, email templates. So when you copy the survey, just the survey configuration and survey questions will get copied over. But if you copy the project, most of the items except the response data, obviously the response data and the metrics data will not get copied over, but rest of it will get copied over. So it's easier to move a project from one environment to another instead of just moving a survey within the environments. So as I was talking about, if you have multiple environments, you would create the survey in the dev environment with survey 1 and survey 2. You would copy the project so that those survey 1 and 2 will be in a test environment. You can do your A/B testing in here. So you can choose which survey questions are working. They are fine. They look okay. And once they are good, they are ready to go live. You can move the entire project to the production environment and make it go live. So that would be one way of managing your customer voice projects in the system. These are the security roles. I mentioned that when you have a customer voice application, there are certain security roles that are provided by default. These are the new security roles. So you want to make sure that at least a user level minimum is given to all the persons who are going to work on the customer voice application. If they don't have this security role, they will not be able to do the task or the functionality which is enabled by the security roles, as mentioned here. Okay, let's talk about the Power BI integration. So I did talk about the Power. You do get reports out of the box for the satisfaction metrics, but you might want to have some custom reports to be done. You want to use Power BI for it, and there are some tables which Microsoft has for your survey. The questions, the question response table, the survey invite, survey responses. Every time you send an invitation, it's stored in as a survey invite. Every response is a survey response. And then if there is any unsubscribed recipient list, you would get it in a table too. And you want to connect to the Dataverse environment and connect to this tables. You also want to add activity party and the contact table from there. That way you can then link the survey to the contacts for whom the survey was emailed. And then if you're triggering a survey based on an account or a lead or an opportunity, you want to also import those tables into your Power BI. So then you can create your custom reports and dashboards with the customer voice data in Power BI integration. Okay. I will not go into Power BI because that takes a little bit of a time. So I will just stop here. Let me go back into this environment here. And let's look at the support survey projects in here. Okay, any questions till now?
Seems clear. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So the last part I'm going into is sending the survey. So if I want to send a survey from Dynamics 365, how do I send the survey from here, right? So you want to decide, how do I send a survey? If I want to send a survey to a particular contact or particular this person, I want to be able to send a survey from within Dynamics 365. So and this is a new functionality, this didn't exist before. So once you have a particular contact, lead, account, or from a case, you can click on the contact, open the send survey button right from your Dynamics 365 customer service hub or it's a sales hub, and then choose the survey that you want to select, that you want to say. So let's say I want to say send the case resolution survey. This is, instead of automatically sending it, now I'm manually sending it. This functionality, you don't need to use customer voice. This can be done by the users who are using Dynamics 365 within the application itself. So I can just click in here and say, okay, I want to, let's say, do the demo feedback survey, and then click next, and then it will send that survey. I can choose an email template from here, one or many template, and then even I can choose the language and enter a company name if I want to enter it. This was the variable that I was talking about, and click on send survey. This will send the survey to the contact, and it will be right from Dynamics 365. To enable this, the send survey capability, you will have to go to the app source, and within app source, Microsoft has provided the Dynamics 365 customer voice send survey app. So this is the customer voice app. This is a send survey from Dynamics 365. Send customer voice survey from Dynamics 365. You click on get it now, and then install it within your environment. So now, once you have it configured and installed, you might need a admin access to be able to do that. You will see this solution in here, which is a send customer voice survey from Dynamics 365. Once you have it installed, then you want to publish it and make sure everything is okay. And it does take a little bit of a time, but then the button just shows up into your Dynamics 365 environment within which you can start sending the survey from Dynamics 365. So that's the new functionality, and any responses that also comes into here. So it just goes into the timeline from here if you have this enabled from within the system. So that's the last part I was going to talk about, is the send survey functionality within Dynamics 365 for customer voice. Okay, that ends my presentation. Eric or Aaron, anyone wants to take over on this?
Yep, I'll take over.
Or any questions from anyone?
Hey Mihir, I saw a question in the chat. You want to respond to
Oh,
that?
okay. I didn't see the chat. Yeah, what is the question? I don't know.
Hey Navin, you can unmute. You can ask the question.
Yeah, I don't see the chat window here. So
sorry, I was just asking, is it same as forms, or I mean, can you do like any specific comparison with forms? Like how would it be?
it is so Eric, you did mention, right, the previous version of this was Forms.
Forms Pro.
Forms Pro. Okay, Forms Pro. And in fact, if you go, some of the table names are the Forms Pro table names in there. But I don't have I don't know if, because there's so much functionality added to this that I don't think it compares the same. It probably enhanced version of it that you have in here.
Yeah, if you look at the table names that are that Mihir was showing in his Power BI slide, they are all MSFP, which is the original Forms Pro.
Forms Pro. Yeah, this is what it is. Yeah, right. Yeah, these are the old table names. They still are there, but the front end has been completely, redone, I guess, from a customer voice point of view. And the satisfaction metrics, all of this are all based on the feedback management application.
Yeah, this is definitely a V3, right? The V1 was voice of customer, then V2 is Forms Pro. Now we have V3 version, correct? Customer
voice. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. The automatic reporting is really nice. Thanks for showing us that, Mihir.
Yep. And it's very easy to use. So,
So actually, the architecture diagram you showed in your deck, Mihir, which is talking about all the Azure pieces, right? Like cognitive services, those things.
So right at the beginning.
Yeah, that's really good. Zoom
Yeah, this one. Yeah. Yeah, this is actually a service from Azure that we are using as a Dynamics 365 customer voice. It's a service. But if you make any changes in Dataverse, that changes doesn't go over to customer voice. If you delete a project or a survey or a question in Dataverse, it doesn't get deleted in customer voice. So that way you'll be careful. You should remove all the delete capabilities in Dataverse while you're using customer voice.
Here, a couple of licensing questions. The first, you mentioned in the beginning, so we have the 2,000 survey limit, and you mentioned something about enterprise apps. Are we talking, if I have a non-enterprise app, so for example, if I have sales only, or if I have customer service, do I get those 2,000 responses?
No, I don't think so. No, it only comes with enterprise license. By default, it comes with enterprise license. If you don't have an enterprise license, and again, Microsoft changes its licensing, so I can't guarantee it will remain the same. It might change next quarter. We don't know. But as of what I understand is, if you have the enterprise license, yes, the 2,000 responses are included. But if you don't, then you need to purchase those.
Okay, so plan 1 or plan 2, basically.
Yeah.
Okay, the other side, the architecture slide had a mention about Dynamics 365 marketing.
Yeah.
Do you need to have?
No, you don't need licenses for Dynamics 365 marketing. It is included in the customer voice service. So it's only for sending the email. That's all this is used for, Dynamics 365 marketing email service. But it's included with your customer service or customer voice services that you purchase.
So
And the only thing you're doing is sending the survey.
once you install it, do you actually see as part of your tenant the Dynamics 365 marketing app, and you can go into it or no?
No, you cannot go in. You don't use it at all. It's in the background, so you don't even see
it's a
it.
backend. Okay.
It's a backend of it, yeah. Just like the Azure Cognitive Services, you don't see any of them. It's working in the backend.
Just like any other Microsoft product.
Yep. Okay.
It's good to know.
Yep.
Okay, let me just take over for the final slide.
Okay, I'll just stop sharing. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Mihir.
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess this slide we kind of covered. Anybody else for a wrap up? Have any other question for me here? Okay.
Okay, no more questions.
So as we mention every time, we are transitioning from Meetup to the Power Platform user groups. We have the QR code on the screen, so if you have not yet registered for our Power Platform user group, please do so that future events, so that you get notified of future events. One of the biggest announcements, I guess, that have been going on the LinkedIn or the community lately is last week or 2 weeks ago, Microsoft released the 2022 Release Wave 2 plan of everything that is going to be released starting October 2022. If you're bored and you want to go over hundreds of pages of documentation, this is a really good thing to check out. But also just follow the community members on LinkedIn. They're posting what their favorite features are. So it's a great place to start, and probably around October, we'll have our own 2022 Release Wave 2 session to go over some of our favorite features. We're still uncertain about the topic for next month. We're working on a few different options. One of them is the Power Apps Starter Kit, which provides additional out-of-the-box components to use with Canvas apps. We're just trying to see if we can line up the speaker for that. And we have a few other options, and we'll post them in the Meetup and the BizApps User Group as soon as we have them. So I'd like to, again, thanks Mihir for stepping up and giving us this presentation on enterprise feedback management with customer voice. And thank you everybody for joining.